Hello everyone, welcome back to another video with Arduino. Today we're going to be creating this 7-segment display, this counting 7-segment display that counts from 1 to 9. So today we're going to explore kind of how it's made, the logic behind it, and the code behind it as well. I also apologize for not uploading earlier. I've been busy with one of the upcoming projects, so definitely stay tuned for that, and it's going to involve a more complex range of parts. So as you see here, it's counting up from 1 to 9, and the 7-segment display is very popular in electrical engineering and very basic circuits, so kind of we'll just explore that today. So now let's hop right into it. Okay, so before we dive into the code and the actual wiring diagram, I want you to notice something about the 7-segment display. We'll elaborate this a little bit later in the code as well. It's composed as 7 segments, as the name suggests, and it's able to, highlight the different segments in order to form numbers. So you notice that each number is formed by some segments being highlighted and some not being highlighted. So essentially what we want to do is make sure that our wired connections are connected to the correct segments, and then from there we program it to highlight at certain times. So that's some of the basic logic, but now let's get into the wiring diagram.
Okay, so here we have the wiring diagram for our project. You can see we have a different colored wires connected from the 7-segment display parts to the Arduino Uno. So we have our different pins here, and it's very, very important that you follow my code exactly, or follow my wiring diagram exactly, because the code corresponds to different pins. So basically, if you switch, let's say, the brown and the red wire instead of a specific segment like this one and this one lighting up, it would change it and look all wonky and different. So basically, it's important that you follow the wiring diagram and follow my code. Or what you can do is you can change up the wiring diagram, but you can't follow my code because it will be different. So I know it sounds all a little bit confusing. So let's say we wanted to light up the number 1, okay? So we want this segment and this segment to light up. And basically, the logic behind this is that we want the Arduino to send a signal through a specific wire, and we want that wire to light this segment up. So this one and this one over here. You can see my cursor. So you may be wondering, how do we light these two segments up, right? And which pin do I connect it to? And that's where this 7-segment display diagram comes in. And basically the way this works is that the wire connected to this portion right here, when that wire gets a signal, it will go through the Arduino and it will go to this segment A. And if the signal is present, the letter A will light up. If we get another signal to B, then the letter B will light up. If we get another segment to C, then C will light up. So let's practice this with a number. So let's say we want the number 1 to be lit up. So that means we want to send signals to B and C. So B is over here and C is over here. So basically, we want to send signals to the two wires over here. So how do we do that? We see we want this one, right? And if you can recall correctly, B was over here. This is segment B. And if you recall correctly, this is segment C. And basically, what we're going to do in the code, this is the logic, is that we're going to send a signal to pin 6. So the signal travels through the wire and the signal is received at this segment. When the signal is received, this will light up. If we go over here to C, we can trace this wire back. You see this blue wire. So we also want to send a signal to pin 4. So the signal goes through and lights up this. And basically, that's just the way it works. If I send a signal to a specific wire, the corresponding segment will light up. If I send a signal to G, G will light up. If I send a signal to F, F will light up. So now if we wanted to create the number 2, what would we have to light up? Just think about that for a second. So what would we have to do is we would have to send a signal to A, we have to send a signal to B, we have to send a signal to G, we have to send a signal to E, and we have to send a signal to D. And that's essentially the whole, I guess, theme or the whole idea and logic behind the way that this thing works. One important idea is that if you see over here, it says VCC. It's not entirely, since VCC doesn't really have a place on here, what basically you do is you just connect the resistor and you connect this to the ground and basically ensures that the signal can get through and light up the corresponding number correctly. And yeah, what we're going to do is basically just send signals to each of the numbers when necessary. So now let's look at the code and how that corresponds. And here I have on the side just something you can look at. If we want to send a signal to E, right here, we would have to send a signal to wire 2, or pin 2. If we want D to light up or send a signal to D, we would have to send a message to pin 3. So now this is the basic gist of it. Hopefully you understand. If you don't really understand, leave a comment with your question. But for now, we're going to move on to the actual code. Now let's take a look. Okay, so here we are again. We have our code right in front of us. And we're just going to kind of walk through it. So this is what we have. It's called an array. It's a collection of different numbers. So instead of creating each variable, like let's say num1 is 2, num2 equals 3, num4 equals 4. Instead of doing all of that, we can just put all those numbers into a list and simplify everything. So now we have all of our numbers here. And we can access each of these numbers using an index. So let's say we wanted to access the number 5. If you remember, when we're counting with computers, we always start with 0. So this is index 0, this is index 1, index 2, and index 3. So if we want to access number 5, we would go pin 3. And this would be the number 5. So it's just simple as that. Now we get down to this part. This is called a two-dimensional array. It's basically saying we have an array of lists. So you can think of it as a list of lists. So what if you have a ton of these? Let's say you have 3, right? Let's say we wanted to create this 4 extra times. We call this pin 1, we'll call this pin 2. How can we simplify this? Well, you can take all 3 of these lists and put them into one whole list called a two-dimensional array. And it's a list of lists, as I just said. So we have a list just like this one, but we have multiple of them. And the way that you can organize this or access one is you would access the initial list or the initial index from here, and then a specific index. So let's say I wanted to access this one, right? Remember with computers, we always start with 0. So it would be 0, 1, 2, 3. This is the third index. So we go number, we go 3, but we want to access a specific number, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, we're in this one. And let's say we want to access this number 1. So it'd be 0, 1, 2, 3. So we'd do another 3. And this would basically say this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So we want to go in this list and access the third index in this list, 0, 1, 2, 3. So it'd be this number. Think about what number it would be if we were doing this index. If you think about it, it would be 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'd be this number. That's just a quick recap on arrays and two-dimensional arrays. But basically, the way that this works is that we have an array and it corresponds to the numbers in here. These numbers and comments are supposed to represent the specific number that shows up on the 7-segment display. So we have here, they all correspond. So 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 1. Remember, in this case, 1 refers to receiving a signal. So if you remember that correctly, receiving a signal would make the segment show. So what I mean by that is, keep in mind, right? We want number 4 and we want number 6 to receive a signal. So number 4, let's just put a star near it, and number 6. So number 4 is this wire, Number 4 is this wire, which will receive a signal. What segment is this? This is segment C. And what else will receive a signal? Segment 4. So this is 6, this is 4. So this one will receive a signal. B and C will both receive a signal. So that means B and C will light up. As you can see, B and C both light up. So this will show a 1. Everything else will be dark. So B and C will light up. Now let's go back to the second one. We have number 2 over here. For now, let's just look at the ones that are not going to light up. So number 4 is not going to light up, and number 8 is not going to light up. Everything else will light up. Number 4 refers to C, and number 8 refers to F. So everything else will receive a signal except C and F. I can find it. Okay, so C and F will not receive a signal. So we had A receive a signal, B receives a signal, G receives a signal, E receives a signal, and D receives a signal. So as you can see, outline over here, this is number 2. So now, let's go on to the next one. We have let's go to a number like 7, okay? So we see over here, number 4 receives a signal, number 5 receives a signal, number 6 receives a signal, number 7 receives a signal, and number 8 receives a signal. Number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 receive a signal. So let's check this. Number 4 receives a signal, number 6 receives a signal, number 7 receives a signal, and number 8 receives a signal. The reason that I leave out number 5 is that if we go over here, this should be connected to pin 5, this green wire over here. This is DP. DP just refers to this little dot over here, so it's not very important. That's why I didn't connect it to a specific segment. So we have over here connection to number 2. So C, B, A, and F all light up. So C, B, A, and F. So can you guess what number this is? F. I'm just going to trace it right now. You can see it on screen as well. This creates the number 7 because F, A, B, and C all light up. So this is basically just the gist of how this program works. Same thing for 8, correct? Everything lights up. A, B, C, so all of this receives a signal. A, B, F, G, E, D, C all receive a signal. So it will outline to the number 8. And same thing for number 4. So essentially, we're just making a program that sends a signal to a specific letter, and that letter will light up a specific segment. Again, I know this is super confusing, so make sure to leave a comment if you're confused or have a question. So now we have this, but what is the logic we can add in order to iterate through these different arrays and light up the correct segment? So we have this right here. This is a for loop. This is just basically saying the output. We want to make sure that a specific pin receives a specific output, right? This is what I was talking about. That's the code for how the specific corresponds, right? 2 corresponds to this, 3 corresponds to this. And how is that created? Using this for loop. This pin A refers to a specific output. And this is just a for loop over here. It's going to go from 0 to 8. So basically it goes from 0 all the way to 8. And we want to increment by 1 every single time. Now we're going to go on to this one. This one's a little bit more complicated. This is what's called a nested for loop. So we have a for inside a for. Okay, so this is basically, we want to go from 0 to 9. We want to make sure that in here, we correspond it correctly. So we want to write pin B right here to number AB over here. And this just says correspond this to this. So if 2, this is 0 corresponding to 2. 2 will not receive a signal. 0 to 3, 3 will not receive a signal. 1 to 4, 4 will receive a signal. Basically, all it is just making sure it corresponds. That's basically what we just talked about kind of briefly in our logic. So this is a cool way to see how our logic can be turned into code, right? We just have a nested for loop, and each of these numbers correspond to a specific pin. And we have here a delay. So we don't want the numbers to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or whatever, right? We want to make sure that they slow down so that you can see each number properly, right? You want to see 1, 2, 3, right? And you can increase this. These are what this is in milliseconds. So 1,000 milliseconds will be equal to 1 second. So there'll be a short pause between each of the numbers. So basically, the gist of it, that's basically the idea of it. So for a short recap, in case you weren't able to fully understand, the specific code sends a signal to a specific pin, and the specific pin lights up a specific segment that corresponds to each of the segments on here.
Alright, so that's going to be it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed. I apologize for not uploading once again. I've been working on an LED matrix, which is going to be coming out really soon, partnering with another organization, so stay tuned. You might want to subscribe for that. But in any case, if you really enjoyed today's video, you were able to build it and you learned something, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. It really helps the algorithm, and it will really help me produce videos just as great as these. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.